I choose to live. 100% I choose to live, absolutely.
So, Star Trek Discovery is going all cops on us this week with the crew out for justice. But will Michael be Judge, Judy, and Executioner? As always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review, and we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery, Episode 3 for Season 4, Choose Your Fate. So if you haven't seen it, there will be spoilers ahead. Now, I know I gave the last episode a bit of a hard time, but I was really looking forward to this one because I thought it'd be very standalone, as they wouldn't really be able to tie too much to the anomaly or this threat that they pose in the galaxy. And yeah, I have to say I was kind of right. This was a bit more of a standalone episode, and it's nice to see Discovery do this. I do have a few problems with this episode, specifically the writing, and I'll get to that later on. But all in all, I did enjoy it, but this is your final opportunity not to get the episode spoiled if you haven't seen it. Now, I did say in my Discovery Season 4 prediction videos we need to see one of these sexy 31st century starships, and we sort of do it. We get an inside look of the USS Credence, but it's not the bridge, it's just a sort of cargo bay. It would have been nice to see a bit more, but they do get attacked by the rogue Malat nuns before anything gets to happen. And they get the cargo of dilithium stolen as well. Now straight away we get a briefing with Vance, the Federation President, and the President of Navarre along with Michael, and he explains that this isn't the first time that they've happened. So they see this person as a threat, but they're not really sure what our end goal is. We do get a lot more information on how the new Federation operates. The President isn't too forceful, which indicates things might not be as stable as they appear on the surface. And Navarre isn't back in the Federation yet, and it seems this is kind of the opposite of what they were leading with the marketing and the promotional material, making us think that everything was sort of back to normal with regards to Navarre, Vulcan and the Federation, but that's not the case. And politics do play a really big part in this episode, but I'll get to that later on. The nuns want to go after them themselves to find out what she's up to, but Michael and Vance don't feel the same as she's killed a Starfleet officer. The President then tells Michael that this mission is more about politics than justice, essentially, and she sees this as a chance to let people see what happens when you try and encroach on the Federation and try and push them around. And she's got a good point, and I'm glad that they are showing this political side of the Federation, because we haven't really seen it in any of the movies or TV shows. I mean, sure, yeah, there's been Star Trek Insurrection and that Deep Space Nine two-parter that was set on Earth, but we've never really got to see the politics firsthand. So if they are going to bring that into Star Trek Discovery, at the very least that's something that I'll be very excited to see. I know not every fan will feel the same, but hey, they can't please everyone and they never do, so why bother? Picking up one of my complaints of last week was Tilly. Now, she's trying to reconnect, but her and Saru appear to be doing that like no time has passed. She tells Saru that she's trying new things to expand her comfort zone, but they aren't really working, and she wants to help tend Saru's garden in his quarters. She tells him that since seeing the cadets, it's made her realise that she doesn't have the same drive that they do anymore, so she's sort of lost her mojo a little bit. And Saru is more than happy to help, but he tells her that he's dealing with business on Kaminar, which makes me think at some point in the series someone is going to say to him, you have to choose between these aliens and your home world, or the Federation and Kaminar, that sort of thing. Again, are they going to get the politics in on this? We'll have to wait and see. But back on Discovery, Book's working on something they don't really say. Stamets is stuck on trying to work out what's going on with the anomaly, and he's really stuck because he's a spore drive. Like, that was his whole line in season 1 is, I'm the spore drive guy, you don't really need me for anything else, and he doesn't care about anything else. So he's trying to solve a problem that an engineer or another scientist should do, and again, it's season 4, we've not met an engineer, or we've not met the chief engineer, and we've not seen engineering, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but you know what I think. Mike wants to take Boot's ship to go and look for the nuns, and he's more than happy with that because he wants to go to Navarre with Stamets to talk about the work that they're doing to try and work out what's going on with this anomaly. And this is one of the good moments in this episode. Stamets tells Boot that he doesn't want to take him because they're going to have to analyse the data of Kujon's destruction. And yeah, that makes total sense, as you want to spare this guy any more pain because you can see that he's still miles off 100% and being back to his usual self. But when they get there, Stamets' explanation doesn't really sit well with Navarre. They decide to mind meld with Book to relive his memories from the anomaly, which helps actually disprove Stamets' theory. So in terms of the anomaly this week, we're no real further forward than we were at the end of last week. It recommends that Tilly goes on the mission with Mike, the mum, and her nuns, and she is kind of back to the old Tilly again for about 5 minutes. And I know I keep saying this, but they don't know what to do with her anymore. They refuse to take her character forward, so it seems like they're trying to take her backwards instead, and that can't be a good sign. On the way there, Mike's mum tells Michael that she knows who the nun is, and this is the person that looked after her when she landed in the 31st century. Now, if you watch Star Trek Picard, you know that the Quat Malat prefer to use swords rather than phasers, and as soon as I knew they were coming into this episode and hunting a rogue Quat Malat nun, I thought it's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to get round the fact that they could just shoot her with a phaser when she can only come at them with a sword. And yeah, the way that they handle it isn't great. Mike's mum doesn't want them to take want them to take phasers with them because she thinks that this will intimidate the Quat Malat. Now, we've already seen these phasers completely appear out of thin air, so why she doesn't want them to take phasers that they can hide and she would prefer them to take swords that they can't hide makes no sense to me whatsoever. But again, they've got to get round this for the writing, otherwise this would be a very short episode indeed. So they agree that everyone should take swords, and even before they land on the planet they're attacked on Book's ship. And while they still have phasers on Book's ship, I might add, but whatever, man. And considering they wanted to take this nun alive and find out what she was up to, they don't really seem to care too much about killing her followers or hench nuns, I suppose, because they dispatch about 2 or 3 of them quite quickly without even trying to interrogate them or capture one alive. Now, when they land on the planet, they find this weird sort of alien lair, and it is, yeah, very alien and very Prometheus-like if you've seen those films. There's these weird sorts of eggs, and there's this huge human body, or huge alien body I should say, that's a totally unknown alien race. Now, they're on a moon, but they actually find out that the entire moon is a ship, so that's what she needed dilithium for, to help move the ship in case the anomaly gets in its way. The carvings on the ship, and it seems to tell the history, and the eggs are actually cryo-sleep chambers for this alien race. They set a trap for the nun, and it doesn't work, and she takes Mike's mum's hostage. It turns out that these aliens have latinum in their bones, which is why they're so much worried about grave robbers and why they're so valuable. It would have been nice if they mentioned the Ferengi on this, because who's after the latinum after all this time? But they decide to wake the aliens up as they were supposed to wake up years ago when they got to this planet, and it's much easier to wake them up and have them defend themselves rather than trying to steal all these resources and lie and cover it up. So they do wake the aliens up and save the day, but Tilly doesn't really seem like she's back to normal or has any sort of closure. They decide to give the rogue Quat Malat nun back to Navarre, which does seem to piss off Vance and Michael, as she's killed a Starfleet officer. And as I mentioned earlier on in the episode, the President really plays this one well. She basically explains that she wants Navarre on side more than she needs justice, and this is the President directly butting heads with Michael again. So is there going to be some point that the President is going to do something and Michael says, no, that's not our values, that's not the people that we are? Because those sort of speeches are the ones that we get in the last episode or 2 of Discovery. But Vance explains to her that she might not be seeing the bigger picture because she doesn't have to deal with what the President does and think of the grand scheme of things, so that does make sense. But I do wonder what they're going to do with this political angle and Michael and the Federation President going forward. Now, the other storyline here is about getting Grey back, and you know how I feel about Grey, so that's why I've left this one to the end. So they've grown a new Grey body, and they appear to be starting the process for the transfer. It turns out they need a Trill Guardian to help do this, and one shows up in the Hollow form. It's Guardian Z from last season when they went to the Trill home planet, so it's always nice to see a recurring character. And also, none of what they're doing seems odd to this guy. He doesn't question the process or mention that this has been done before or that it's really that dangerous. In fact, he seems to indicate that it's been tried several times before and the outcomes can be varied. So a bit of backstory on that would have been good. But we do learn that Grey wanted to be a Guardian through Adira, and to me that doesn't make sense, as wasn't Grey in love with Adira, and the Guardians seem to live selfless lives in caves like monks, so would he had to leave Adira at some point to fulfill this dream? But anyway, his presence leaves Adira, but it takes quite a while to take hold of the new consciousness. They say there's no real time frame on when or if it'll happen, but by the episode it does seem to work because he's up and about interacting with people. And I don't know, are they going to keep this sort of happy clappy to the end, or are they going to sacrifice something? I don't get what the end game here of bringing Grey back is. Is he going to stay on the ship? Because we've just found out that he wanted to be a Guardian. So with that, I think Adira and Grey will either leave the ship or they'll have some sort of confrontation, because Adira is now settled into this life on Discovery and Grey's not. He's only been observing these people's. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with this, if they're going to keep them together, if they're going to make one of them happy and the other one unhappy.